Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is my regular look at everything in bud, spike or bloom on the 8th. Unfortunately this time it's on the 9th because I forgot. It's often on the 9th for practical reasons, like I'm doing something else on the 8th, but what I was doing on the 8th was being forgetful basically. So it's on the 9th, you know. I could just miss it out altogether. Anyway, we'll have a go round. We're starting in the kitchen and there's not much on the go this time because a lot of the phalaenopsis, mini phalaenopsis that came from the Double H nursery have actually gone out of bloom now, so they're sort of missing. But one of Hannah's mini phals has actually got a spike just starting, so that hopefully will progress. The giant one that was my son's, that was in the glass container, those of you that have been watching long enough will remember I had to smash the glass jar to get the plant out, and it's a bit of a monster. You know, these are big leaves. But that's got a spike coming, so we'll have some blooms on that in the distant. And the only thing out here that's actually in bloom now is the patterned leaf equestris. The leaves have got quite a pattern on them, and this was the equestris. Again, all these four here are Hannah's. This equestris is the pyloric one. I've just noticed there's a spike on there. I'd forgotten that one. So we've got a spike on the pyloric equestris, and the patterned leaf equestris is nicely in bloom. And these are very delicate but very attractive blooms. It's a pity they're so small, but they sort of make up for it in numbers. We've got a branch spike here and another branch here, and the spike is extending off the end. Some blooms are still just opening, so the blooms will be around a long time, but yeah, very, very attractive blooms. Right, now we'll head off out into the grow room, see what's going on out there. Right, we'll do what we normally do and sort of start on the left and work our way round into the right hand corner. Now, out here we've got one spike that I can't get at because it would mean moving this, and I'm not moving that. Not just for one spike. If it was blooms, yes I might, but not for a spike. Now, totally out of season compared with when it would normally bloom, my Hercoglossum has some buds on it. So we're going to see those blooms again. Although when this was a healthy plant, it did used to bloom on and off throughout the summer period. Used to bloom late spring as it's sort of mass blooming, but it would have a few before that, and then it would have some stragglers afterwards, so that would be classed as a straggler. Very unhappy plant though at the moment. I don't think I'm going to lose it. I have got some separate kikis, so if the main plant goes, then I've still got kikis. My Victoria Regina is having a bit of a mass go at blooming at the moment. Two lovely clusters of blooms, and as the blooms are attractive and rather unusual in the orchid world because of their colour, some people call them blue. It's not blue, it's purple, but it's classed as close to blue. Because of that, I'll take that to the show, and they can hide the plant somewhere, which is not very attractive, and let the blooms stick out the top. And then we've got this odont type. I think that's got a proper name, hasn't it? Yes, it's Oncidium tiger tail. And as most odontoglossums were reclassified as Oncidiums, it's probably just Oncidium tiger tail now. But attractive blooms, bit of a colour changer. All the blooms are open now, so again that one can go to the show. It's a nice little splash of colour. They're not spectacular because they're not very big. Nonetheless, nice colours, nice patterns, and nice shades on the lip. You get a freshly opened lip, there's not too much yellow and quite a bit of purple around the edges. And then as it ages, the purple becomes fainter. and you end up with more yellow. So colour changer. Down here we've got this no ID phalaenopsis. That is one of mine, and yeah, lovely blooms. I find that simplistic phalaenopsis bloom very attractive rather than some of the shouty, splashy coloured, big pattern sort of jobs. I quite like the simplicity of this. Just gentle pink fading to white on the edges, little pattern in the lip and a little splash of colour, a little bit of red and a bit of yellow, and then the typical spots underneath. So I like that because of its simplicity. And then next to that is blackjack. That's a single bloom this time round, and yeah, it's a very popular paphiopedilum. It's an easy-going one. It's pretty easy to grow compared with some others, and in addition to that, it blooms easy. You know, you very rarely get a fan that grows that doesn't actually produce a bloom, so it's quite an easy one to get to bloom. We do have a couple of Restrepias with blooms on. Got this one over here that's got a bloom. I'm never going to be able to get at that because it's in a dark corner. Whereas this one here, this one's got a nice bloom out in the open, which I can probably get quite close to, so you can see the patterning on it. I still like Restrepia blooms. I like them because they're unusual and they're not minute. You get a lot of the more unusual type orchid blooms tend to be minute and you can't see them. And then tucked in behind this almost failed mount, this is my only Arengis. Two tiny little plants that I mounted that have actually started to grow, but very, very slowly. And behind it is one of the Phalaenopsis that Hannah bought, I forget where, but that is U-pin Easter Island, and the spike is very, very long but doesn't have a huge number of buds on it. Nonetheless, I'm pretty certain the blooms are quite large. I can't remember. And then up there we've still got, I don't class this as in bloom really because the blooms are going over now, they're starting to fade. In fact, I think one of them is balanced. I've got a feeling one of them has already fallen. It just doesn't know it yet. It's all perched in between the other bloom and the leaf. But that's my Dendrobium infundibulum. Blooms last absolutely ages. Don't know how long it'll be before I get any more blooms on that. The other new growth behind there that's similar height, that cane there, lost its top. It had an accident and fell off and the top broke off. And most of the time infundibulum blooms at the top of the cane, and that's lost the top of the cane. So I don't know whether that cane will ever bloom, but it's a massive cane. You know, obviously it'll supply energy to the plant. The new cane is coming up here, so we do have a new cane pushing on. Now this is the one I'm not going to get at, but right over in that corner, I'll zoom in on it, but there's nothing to see really, is my Laelia anceps. So I've got to see what I'm doing. There it is. So we do have a spike. Oh, it's not going to focus, typical. There is a spike there. Let's see if I can force it to focus. There is a spike there, but the buds aren't showing yet. So it's not going to be a good blooming because the plant's weak, but nonetheless it does have a spike. And then let's get the zoom out again. And then coming over here we have the Prosthetia radiata, Mr. Fragrant. Very, very fragrant orchid, this one. Overpowering, some people say. Attractive blooms, sort of. They're not spectacular, but they do have nice patterning. There we go. So I was going to say if it'll focus. So they've got a nice pattern and they're a sort of shade of creamy green or greeny cream, whichever way you want to do it, but yeah. So they're a little bland, but they make up for it with the fragrance. So that's that. There's nothing down on that shelf. Miltonias mainly, and my zygos are tucked in there. Now, out of the Cymbidiums, I'm not going over all of them, but there is one that's definitely got some spikes, and it is, I think it was this one, wasn't it? Yes. So we do have, and we had a look at these not that long ago, and this one's got 3 spikes somewhere, but this one's visible, and that one is, that's the bronzy coloured hybrid, so no specific name or anything. That's that. Obviously none of the Deces are in bloom. None of the mounts have got buds on. They won't do anything along those lines till next year. Then coming around here, we've got Sherry Baby is going over. This spike has seen much better days, but there's still some good blooms on the other spike. So there are still some blooms worth looking at. It's a very tatty plant though. The plant itself has gone downhill quite a lot. I think it needs splitting and a repot, or it needs splitting and putting in fresh compost, let's put it that way. And then the Brassica type, Shelob Marie, that's last blooming spike is going over, the plants are fading, and there's one more spike to go with a blasted bud there. But nonetheless, it's still got a couple more, so there's still, you know, this has been in bloom absolutely ages because it had so many spikes, and it's going to need a good rest after that amount of blooming. Yeah, so this will be the last one anyway. Then the Oncidium type, this is Oncidium hybrid, very useful. Yeah, a no ID Oncidium. This spike has gone now. But you still get an impression of what it was like once. Nice set of colours, autumn type colours, and it looks nice. That's had several spikes on as well. And then next to that we've got this, I think this is Las Vegas, Phalaenopsis Las Vegas. And again, it's simplistic. The colours blend nicely. You wouldn't expect an orangey, bronzy coloured bloom to have pink on it, but there's just that touch of pink near the centre, and then you've got the deep yellow on the part of the lip that sticks out. So very attractive colours. I've got 2 of these. I bought one in bloom, this one, at the NEC, the Gardeners World Live show that I went to back in the summer, and I got this plant because of this, because it has a side shoot. So I thought it would be interesting to keep our eye on what the side shoot does and whether I decide to separate it in the future or not. It was just because it was interesting. But I do have another one of these tucked away somewhere. Not quite sure where. So, you know, Phalaenopsis all sort of look the same until they get their blooms. Now down here somewhere, I'm not going to be able to get at it very easily. Again, I'll use the zoom. This is my paphiopedilum liana, ex-liana, because it is actually a naturally occurring hybrid, and we have a bud. So you can see the stem through the leaves, and you can see the bud sticking out the top, so we will have a bloom on that in the not too, don't hold your breath, it's a paphiopedilum. Nothing happens quickly with paphiopedilums, but at least there's a bud on it, so we will have some blooms sometime down the line. There's nothing else down there on that shelf. Coming over here, we've got the hibiki with its 2 bloom clusters. There's no more buds anywhere, so I don't think we'll be getting any more blooms soon. Lovely colour, combination of purple and orange, which doesn't normally go together, but it seems to work. Insa said it might be our association with crocuses, especially in the UK. Lots of people love their crocuses. I don't particularly, because the time of year they come out, they tend to get bashed to bits by wind and rain, so they never seem to last long. You know, and they're bulbs. They only bloom that once a year and then they're gone. So they don't do much for me, I'm afraid. And then behind there's another Phalaenopsis in bloom, and that is mini phal H. And that is one of the mini phals from double H, I believe, and it's a branch on the spike. Yeah, you can see where the spike's been cut, and this is a branch that will be in bloom soon. So that's that. Then we've got the Coelogynes. Now I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're going to have a good look at these possibly tomorrow. Probably tomorrow in fact. But there's one in bloom that's looking good. This will go to the show because these are unusual blooms, both their colour and the patterning. It's more the structure rather than the pattern. This is sturdy. This is not wispy. This is firm. This is almost like made of plastic. It's not, but yeah, it's the frilliness, the structure that's quite special on these. 2 blooms and a third one pushing on. That's not going to be opened by the show on Saturday. And there's another sequential bloom up here that may or may not get there. We shall have to wait and see. And then there are other spikes lurking on 2 other Coelogynes. We'll have a look at those when we get there because I can't get at them now. They're at the back, right at the back. So that's that. And then over here we've still got the Dracuvalia. It's not a particularly nice bloom actually. It didn't fully open properly. I don't think the plant's that strong. But it's been in bloom a long time. When it was new, when it first opened, it had lovely patterning and colours, but it's faded a bit now. I think it's gonna drop soon. And then up here we've got the remnants of the mini Phalaenopsis from double H. Now this one, they've all got a letter. That's the only way I could identify them basically and keep tabs on what they're up to. Both of the spikes on this one have been chopped and I'm leaving the branches. So these are 2 branches. This one dropped quite a few buds, but it's still got some. This one is about to drop 1 bud, but it's still got some. And this is quite a plain one. There's some veining there, just about visible. It's a lovely colour, and with those pale edges, it sort of looks like it's backlit from a filming or camera point of view. Quite attractive, and I think that one's had its repot. Yeah, that one's been repotted. So this next 2, these are the 2 that are going to the show as a demo to repot. And as a consequence of the demo, I will probably take the flower spikes off. These 2 are the same. They're very attractive flowers, lovely patterning, not very big, but again, you know, plenty of them. Produce lovely branch spikes. The top's taken off and the branches have bloomed, but as you can see with the branches, they're down to their last few. So they've only got a short space of time left anyway. So as part of the demo, I'll explain that taking the spike off can be quite a good idea. I don't always do it, but when you're explaining to novices or beginners or people who haven't been growing that long, it's best to err on the side of caution when you're explaining things. And most people would say, if you're repotting a Phalaenopsis, taking the blooms off gives the plant chance to recover from blooming. They use a lot of energy pushing those blooms out. And you know, you can allow it time to recover, especially when they've been force grown by the mass producers. Give it time, let it do some vegetative growth, get some new roots, you know, get established in its new media, and then it will bloom again, you know. And so this one's the same, 2 spikes branching. I mean, this branching spike up the back here is down to its last bloom. Okay, there are a few buds, but they won't come to much. So we will be taking those spikes off. And that is it. That is it for the time being. I always sort of say there doesn't seem to be much on the go, and compared with other times of years, perhaps there isn't. But nonetheless, you know, we've got some blooms to come, we've got some buds on the go. So say we've got two Coelogynes pushing up spikes in the background there. We've got some Phalaenopsis, we've got a paphiopedilum coming on. In the Oncidium world, there's no new spikes. Oh, yes, there is. I missed one. Ah, and this one, you're in for a treat. This is not a very good looking plant because some idiot put it in a pot that was too big. So it didn't get going as well as it should have done. But it has a lovely big strong new growth coming up the middle and another one over the far side. But over here, this new growth has a spike. Now this is, it was named Cambria, yeah, which is like a generic name for people who don't want to give it a proper name. So lots of orchids are just called Cambria. And I've kept that tag simply because it distinguishes it from anything else. I don't think it's going to have a lot of blooms, but it's going to have some. And boy, are you in for a treat when this flowers. Hasn't done it for some considerable time, so most people won't remember it. But when it comes out, it's stunning. So we've got a fair old wait. I mean, the spike's only just starting to form buds. And this may well expand some more with more buds to show. I think it's going to have more than one flower, but at the moment there's only one bud showing. But whatever it does, it's quite a spectacular bloom. So that's to come as well. That's the only Oncidium really that's, apart from the spidery nonsense, the Shelob Marie. Yeah, there's a lot of Oncidiums that are in their growth phase. You know, they're pushing on this year's growths and heading towards maturity, and hopefully they'll you know, they'll bloom later down the line, either in the winter or out the other side as we come into spring. So there we go, that's what's going on. And quick update on the bird feeders. I'm not waiting here for something to appear. The birds are getting put off because of the massive amount of rain we've had, and we're having some really hard showers. I got woken up this morning by heavy rain, you know, the noise it makes. You've heard the noise it makes on this plastic roof when I've been in here. Well, my bedroom's just above it, so I've got woken up by rain this morning. But yeah, we haven't had anything new since last time I said. But basically there's a pair of nuthatches. There's definitely two because they've both been there at the same time, although most of the time they visit separately. We've had a male chaffinch, just the one, and that came for a couple of days, but I haven't seen it lately. There's a robin, a very regular visitor. That's here, you know, every day, quite a few times a day. And then we've had blue tits and great tits. And that's it so far. There's a hedge sparrow, Dunnock is its proper name, but that's an insect eater rather than a seed eater. So although it hangs around the bird feeder, it doesn't feed on it, but it's around it. It's actually landed on the roof, so it counts. And that's where we are so far. No sparrows, none of the other finches, goldfinches, greenfinches, none of those have appeared yet. And no long-tailed tits, no coal tits. So yeah, the list of things that should be here through the winter is far from complete. But then the feeder hasn't been out long. And quite honestly, there's still stacks of food around for the birds. There's, you know, we haven't had a cold spell that's long enough to kill off a lot of the insects, so there's still plenty of insects around. There's lots of seeds around from people's gardens and things out in the wild going to seed. It's that time of year. There's just plenty of food around at the moment, so they don't need to look to the gardens yet. But this weather, apparently, we've got rain and more rain again tomorrow, I think, in the morning. And then the low pressure moves off, and because it's out to the right of us, it's drawing down the Arctic air. So for the rest of this week it's going to turn quite cold with daytime temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees. Nighttime temperatures obviously quite a bit colder than that. So yeah, it's turning chilly. Don't know how long it'll last. You know, we're only just into October. You know, we can still get mild weather in October, but the mild spell we're having now that's generating all this rain, that's due to move off a bit, and then we start getting cold weather for a while. Whether we'll get down to frosts or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. There's the tail end of a hurricane heading this way, but its current track looks like it's going to go across sort of Spain and France and head across that direction, you know, diagonally heading north, and just possibly skip the south of the UK, clip the corner, southeast England, but it's not certain the path it's going to track yet. If it moves a bit north, then I'm in the way. I'll get it. And it's by the time it gets here, an ex-hurricane that gets to the UK is nothing more than a storm. You know, it's nowhere near the sort of damaging thing that it is when it's at full force. So anyway, that's what's going on with the bud spikes and blooms, and sorry it's a day late. These things happen, you know. As I get older, I will probably get more and more forgetful, and who knows, I may even forget to get up in the morning. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.